Welcome back to Primetime News.
Special welcome to folks on OneSpotMedia.com.
Up first this evening, a major investigation is now underway to find out what caused a Jamaica Defence Force JDF helicopter to crash this morning in St. Catherine.
It happened in Dunbeholden, which is located between Portmore and Spanish Town. The injured pilot is now receiving treatment. TVJ's Andrea Chisholm was on location.
A Jamaica Defence Force JDF helicopter landing Monday afternoon in the Dunbeholden area of St. Catherine. A protected mobility vehicle and additional personnel. The reason? This wreckage of another JDF helicopter.
We're here at the crash site of the JDF helicopter. As you can see, a number of JDF personnel are going to the area to find out what has been happening. We're not allowed to go any further because investigators do not want to compromise the integrity of the investigation.
Caution tape surrounded Ground Zero as soldiers surveyed the damage while securing the crash site of Bell 206. Civil Military Officer Major Basil Jarrett says the JDF has the helicopter for about 11 years. So, what exactly happened?
One of our pilots had an emergency landing this morning at about 10:40 here in this location, Dunbeholden. Immediately after getting the notification, we sent a team here. They were able to retrieve the pilot and rush him to the university hospital for treatment. The good thing is that the pilot was able to walk away from the landing site. When our rescue team came here, he had already taken himself out of the helicopter. I believe that the soldiers who were doing the initial search for him may have gotten some assistance from the residents who say they saw the helicopter come down in this general vicinity.
The pilot, who is a member of the JDF, is actually a student at the Caribbean Military Aviation School.
Is this the normal business for the JDF to allow trainees to fly the aircraft by themselves?
Absolutely. The JDF runs the Caribbean Military Aviation School, and at some point pilots start to do their solo mission as they develop and progress in their training. He was doing what I understand one of his regular training flights this morning when the incident happened.
I don't know if there was a recording, but by any chance, if there was one, would we be able to hear what actually happened prior to the crash?
I can't say. That decision would be up to the investigative bodies. The Jamaica Defence Force would be conducting its own investigation, but of course it will be partnering with the Civil Aviation Authority and the other relevant bodies to help put the pieces of the puzzle together.
So a top-level probe is now in progress to determine what led to the crash and lessons to be learned. While the authorities embark on that lengthy mission, this appeal.
We'd also like to ask residents who may see anything unusual, like it may have come off, fallen off the aircraft, not to touch it, not to meddle with it. Just give us a call at the JDF and let us know, because every single piece of this aircraft is an important part of the puzzle.
Persons can call the JDF Up Park Camp at 876-960-8776. Andrea Chisholm, TVJ News.
In the meantime, we are now joined by Major Basil Jarrett with more on the downed helicopter. Major Jarrett, good evening. What additional information first can you give us about the status of the pilot?
Well, we're very happy to report that he is in high spirits. The reports I got earlier was that he has been speaking with his family and he has been talking with his fellow pilots who have been visiting him to ensure that he's okay.
Any sense of the nature of his injuries? Minor scratches and bruises? What?
Well, when you're involved in an aircraft crash, just to be able to sit up and talk is a miracle. So while I don't have any report on the extent of his injuries, we're very encouraged by his state right now.
All right, first, what now of the security of the crash site? You have been asking people, or reporter certainly was told, was not allowed to go close to that aircraft. How do you secure that area?
Well, the most important thing is to keep the area sterile. This will allow the investigators to come in and essentially recreate what may have happened just prior to the aircraft touching down. What's important for us, or what we're very encouraged by, is that our pilots are trained with proper safety and emergency procedures. And what we saw, from what we see on the ground now, it seems that he learned his lessons well. He brought down the aircraft in an open area. He was able to bring it down with some amount of control over the descent, as evidenced by the fact that the aircraft is still intact. And the fact that he was able to walk away from the crash tells me that, you know, he did his work. He did what he was trained to do in a situation like this.
Was anyone monitoring him? Monitoring the flight?
He was doing a solo flight, and when you do these flights, there is communication with the various aviation entities. He would have been in touch with the control towers, he would have been in touch with the folks back at the JDF. So there's no reason to believe that he wasn't following standard procedures this morning.
You said that his training was good there. That the evidence suggests that his training was good. How long had he been trained?
He's been training at the Caribbean Military Aviation School for about 2 years. He's been in the JDF for about 6. From what I understand, our students are trained by the best pilots and pilot instructors in the world, locally and internationally. And emergency procedures is one of the things that it's stressed more than anything else. So we're very happy to report that he's okay and he should survive.
You said to a reporter there that solo flights are standard.
Yes.
What was the period of training, and was his movement from that training to solo flights in line with your actual regulations?
Each student would be following a prescribed course as they go through their training program. I'm not sure which flight this was his first, second, third, I can't say, but he was progressing naturally, and there was no reason to think that he may have been flying prematurely. He seems to have been following his trajectory. And to be honest with you, until the crash investigators have done their work, it's really difficult to say if this was mechanical error, weather, or pilot error.
Has he given any indication at all of either mechanical error or that it might have been his own?
The investigators are speaking with him. They'll be speaking with him over the coming days, but right now we're just happy to have him alive and in one piece.
Where was he headed?
He was heading back to Up Park Camp after completing that solo flight.
All right. Have people been calling? You made an appeal there for persons who might have seen parts of the aircraft, for instance. So have you been getting those calls?
No, we haven't. And again, we're very encouraged by that. The fact that most of the debris from the aircraft is limited to that, from what we can see, is limited to that very small area. It does indicate that there was some amount of control over the descent, which is very encouraging.
No, in our report there it said that aircraft was 11 years old. Is that normal?
Absolutely. Aircraft can fly as long as you maintain them well. They can fly for decades.
So it was fit to be flown?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
And what is the strategy for ensuring that it continues to be fit to be flown, in other words?
We have the best aircraft technicians and engineers, and they ensure that not only does the aircraft that we fly stay on top of their maintenance schedules, but we ensure that our pilots and their engineers are adequately briefed on the various capabilities of the aircraft to ensure that it operates in a safe manner.
All right, thank you so much. Best of wishes for his, swift recovery. Civil Military Officer at the JDF, Major Basil Jarrett.